Friends, this is part 2 of one of our favorite episodes. Don't worry if you didn't hear part 1, but do go back and check it out if you want to. Jaden and I are talking about our favorite tools, just like right now. No particular order, anything like that. These are just things that, sort of sometimes sound like, oh, I've heard of that. Jaden and I want to talk to you about our favorites, what we're using them for now, and even on these podcasts, like even on the last one, Jaden, you and I did. Sometimes I was like, yes, I love that one, or like, oh my gosh, I had no idea about this one. So it's fun for us as well. Just as we're getting into it, and Jaden, I'll let you kick this off, and we'll kind of like do our top 3 or whatever it is. And again, there were 3 in the last one. Check out part 1 of this series. It's only a 2-part series. But guys, Jaden and I actually, if you like the sound of our voice, so I hope you do if you're listening, but if not, apologies. Jaden and I actually have a new podcast that we just started. It's not going to be for everybody, but it's called AI and Faith. And Jaden and I, it's just faith is super important to both of us. We talk about it a lot offline. We don't usually talk about it, obviously, like in AI applied. It doesn't sort of apply there. But it's just huge for, what are these like big existential questions about like AI? What should it do? Like, what does it mean for your family and your community and everything else? Again, no haters if this is not for you, no worries at all. But Jaden, I've absolutely loved doing it. It's been super fun. They're really short episodes. They're like 10 minutes long each. So go check it out. There'll be a link in the description. Jaden, let's kick it off. Like, give me your first tool that people might not know about, or they might, but you've just like absolutely fallen in love with.
Okay, absolutely fallen in love with 11 Labs. And I'll tell you, I have tried so many different audio platforms. I really tried to find anything else because it's a little bit expensive. And I've ended up back at 11 Labs. Also, big shout out to the team. They gave me like a $4,000 credit. And if anyone here has a startup and you want that, send me a DM on LinkedIn. I can tell you how to get it. It's like nothing fancy, but I could give you the breakdown on how I got that. So the thing that I really love about 11 Labs, and the thing that I didn't even realize how cool it was, what they do, but I really like their studio. So 11 Labs Studio, you basically can go and start a project that can be like, you can make, it's basically, I think they said they built it for audiobooks. So it's designed to do really, really long documents. And I've actually started a new project, which is sort of to showcase some cool capabilities on my platform, AI Box. I'll talk about it later. But I've started, it is a sleep history podcast. These are 2 to 4 hour long podcasts. I got my studio manager at my podcast studio in Arizona, and he's doing the work, but it was kind of fun. I figured out the workflow here. We will put in a 30,000 word script into 11 Labs, and it can generate the entire audio file. And I actually have it doing a voice clone of myself. So it's my own voice talking. So there's a whole bunch of cool things. And I think there's a lot of applicable things. You could probably use this in whatever your workflows or your projects that you're working on are. But it does voice cloning phenomenally well. It has 11 Labs V3. This is the primary model that I'm using right now, and it's super expressive. So you can create a voice clone of yourself or use someone else's. You turn on 11 Labs V3, and all of a sudden it's like really expressive and talks like how you talk. And so anyways, it's amazing, and it does really long stuff. Now, really quick, the reason why this is amazing, because I was like, man, 11 Labs is expensive. I'm going to go find a cheaper, like open source alternative to do this. I tried doing Qwen 3 TTS, which is like an open source audio cloning model. Guys, what I didn't realize is every audio model that exists in the world can only do about 5,000 characters max through an API or even on your computer. And you have to link together all of the MP3 files yourself to create like the master file. So I'm just blown away. And you have to do a bunch of creative things, like make sure that it ends, not exactly at 5,000 characters, because you don't want it to end in the middle of a sentence or in the middle of words. You kind of want to do it at the end of a paragraph or the end of like a breath, or anyways, there's all these different things you have to think about. 11 Labs stitches it all together. You don't even know that stuff existed. I've used it for so long that I didn't realize trying to do it from scratch the old fashioned way on any other platform, how hard it is. So guys, just if you're ever doing anything long, or basically anything audio, I'd recommend 11 Labs is awesome.
I think it goes without saying, just because you know us, but they're not sponsored. Nobody's sponsoring us to do this. That's a great one. Yeah, 11 Labs. I just messed around with it. Jaden is a power user on 11 Labs. If you can find your use case, it's absolutely phenomenal. Okay, for me, it's a specific part of Notebook LM. So people know about Notebook LM. I think they threw it in a podcast. Especially younger folks are sort of like constantly using Notebook LM to create podcasts. It's also one of these things where it's like, well, I don't know how to get there. Guys, you just put in Notebook LM, and it's unbelievably easy. It does it can do deep research for you. It can create all these cool things. But here's my favorite part of Notebook LM, absolutely, which is the slide decks it creates. I have done kind of side by side comparisons of everybody else's slide decks. Notebook LM. The reason it's so good is that Gemini, is it Gemini 3? What are we up to, Jaden? I'm getting lost. Is it 3.5 or just 3? Is it Gemini 3 is probably the latest
Yes.
model? So Gemini 3 is unbelievably powerful. Nano Banana 2 is unbelievably powerful. And I have never, so what I'll do sometimes, like Jaden, Finn and I, my son Finn and I were doing a thing for like a big group of like 200 teachers and parents in Connecticut. And so like as we were starting, I just kind of took their high school website and I just tossed it into Notebook LM. I said, just create a deck for me. And then I turned it off and I went and did my deck. And then after, at the end of the thing, I'm like, let's just look. I've never seen anybody's jaw not hit the floor. Guys, if you don't believe me, just take a URL of something you know something about, just or anything. Take any random URL. Don't even worry about it. Go to Notebook LM, put it in there and just say create a deck. Now it'll take a while. It'll take like 8 or 9 minutes. It's not your problem. You know what I mean? Like it's just going to go. It's just going to take some time, all that kind of stuff. So don't worry. It's not malfunctioning. Check it out. It is mind-blowingly better than anybody else. The problem, Jane, is that at the moment, I don't think you can edit it. So that is a problem. But if you just like want somebody to just like wow somebody in a few minutes, it's absolutely unbelievable. That is my number one for today.
Okay. Absolutely love that. Guys, I'm going to shamelessly plug AI Box as one of my AI tools that I'm using. And I want to show you a specific use case that I'm using it for that's amazing. And hopefully this also gets your wheels spinning. I mentioned at first with using 11 Labs for this 2-hour long podcast, sleep history podcast thing that I was starting. There's something that's really challenging with this, and you might run into this in different projects that you work on. So that's why I bring it up, because I'm assuming most people are not making 2-hour long sleep history podcasts. But there's something that's really challenging for me, and that is if you ever want AI to write a very long document, whether that's a book or a story or sometimes literally the reports I write, like these things kind of have a max to how much they can write. And especially if you're using something like Claude, which is what I'm using to power this tool in particular because it's got amazing tone. I was struggling to come up with a 30,000, right? If you just tell Claude, like, hey, write me a 30,000 word script for a podcast about this topic, it's going to write you like 2,000 words and be done. Like that's kind of its max, right? So what you have to do is say, hey, Claude, write me a podcast script outline about this topic, break it into 12 different chapters. And then you say, okay, for each of these 12 chapters, write me a 1,500 word script based off of chapter 1. Okay, once it finishes, okay, now do chapter 2. That's the conversation you have to have in Claude, which takes a long time because you're like, okay, now do chapter 3. Okay, now do chapter 4. Anyways, that was my workflow before, and it was literally driving me crazy. I was about to hand it off to my studio manager, like run, and I knew he was gonna like pull his hair out. So what I did is I actually built a tool on AI Box. How it works is we have an AI builder where you literally can just click on any AI model you want. You write a prompt in there. So the first prompt, I would say something like, write an art or a podcast script outline with 12 chapters on this topic. So that would be the prompt for there. I would then go and grab a second model, and I would link the two together. And in this one, I would say, like write chapter 1, and that would be I would then just like link it. So what it writes for the outlines, it's now going to start writing the chapters. And I go and make 12 of these. So that's what I did for this one particular tool. And so now I have it all linked together over on, and I built it into like a little tool that I can just use over and over again. All I got to do now is just type in the name of the podcast script, and it runs that automation where it like generates a chapter and then generates each of the 12 things, and it stitches them all together into one document, and I just download the script and I'm done. So if you ever need to do something where you're trying to build, you need like a ton of text, or you need to link together multiple outputs, basically the AI models can't do them themselves, I would recommend checking out the builder on AI Box. And it saves me, like, I can't say how much time it saves me not having to say, do chapter 1, do chapter 2, do chapter 3, and all the way through 12. So that would be my number 2.
Love AI Box. It's like
We
growing
did.
like crazy. It's going to be huge. Super psyched. I absolutely love the product. Okay, my number 2, Claude Cowork. Now we've kind of like talked about Claude Cowork. We've heard about Claude Cowork, etc. Let me tell you how I was just recently using Claude Cowork that absolutely blew my mind. So I was just doing my taxes. It's that kind of season. And essentially what I was doing, like I just had like a file with like all our credit card statements, all our, because we're like, we have our own business, just tons and tons and tons of stuff. And I knew that there was a business expense in there. I knew it happened in the summer. And I just sort of pointed Claude Cowork to a folder of all these files, which had to have thousands and thousands and thousands of lines of different things like that. And it just reliably went through there, even better than a control F going through each one of the pages. It's like, oh, you're probably talking about this or this. Which one are you talking about? It did it in 2 seconds. And I'm like, okay, can you convert all these to Excel so I can kind of copy and paste them over? Yeah, sure. Now they're in PDF. Now they're in Excel. Claude Cowork, just for that, just working for with files, Jaden, has been absolute game changer for me, and especially during tax season, it was just spectacular in how you do it. Now, some people would say like, I don't want to put that stuff into there. Don't do it. I don't care. Like, it's everybody's privacy challenges are their own, but like, I don't care. I don't care if Claude has my sort of like personal banking information or what I've spent on. It's just been absolutely incredible. So sometimes people are like, what should I use it for? That's what you should use it for. Use it for if you're trying to sort of like kind of like go through and find things in like big Excel documents and stuff.
Okay. I'll give my last one today, and it's actually ChatGPT, but I have a funny use case that I will share one of my most recent chats with it. And that is that I just had my 30th birthday. I turned 30, and I needed to put a funny picture in the group chat of all the people that are wishing me happy birthday. So I told ChatGPT that I needed to create an ultra realistic image of myself and my family riding a Harley, right? Because it's my midlife crisis. And so I told everyone they could ride on my Harley Davidson with me after they wished me happy birthday. Anyways, guys, I was
Unbelievably good.
thrilled by the the ultra realistic output. I got
It's
a side
incredible.
carriage with all my children in it, my wife and I on the Harley. So I think I'm going to be turning over a new leaf and probably need to buy one. But anyways, if you need to generate images, guys, for funny things like that, right? Like just off the spurt, you used to have to go to Photoshop and try to like this would have been a huge pain. It is so quick, so easy. And so ChatGPT is still my go-to for image generation. It's
Huh.
so fast
Okay,
and the
fair.
model is pretty great.
Their model is great. Yeah, and Nano Banana gets all the press, but I think Chad is actually maybe Chad, I can't believe how good that image is. That's like unbelievable. It also, by the way, guys, if you're an introvert like me and you want to pretend you went to Halloween parties but didn't, like just say like put me in a Ronald McDonald costume or something. And people be like, you dress up like that? Oh yeah, no, I go all out for Halloween. I just like I absolutely love it. You put it on social media and then you don't actually have to see anybody ever, which is like my dream come true. Um, my last one is kind of like a little bit odd, and I haven't talked about this in a while, Jaden, but I just find myself continuously using it, which is Perplexity. And
Mm.
guys, this is going to sound like an episode from late 2023, but just if I need just like information quick on the fly, like if you and I are talking about something on the pod, and all of a sudden you bring up something that like I hadn't heard about. Like I want to kind of like be able to respond, thoughtfully to it, and I hadn't prepped for it or anything like that because like you're just talking about it on the fly. Perplexity is my go-to still. And I know people say like, oh, but Google can do that, ChatGPT. There's something about Perplexity. I don't know. Like the layout is great. It gives you phenomenal sources. It shows you where it came from. And people say like, yeah, I know everything else can do that. I know. I get it. Perplexity is one of these very weird companies that's continuing to turn out incredible product. The problem is they don't have their own model, but they're continuing to turn out like, Perplexity computer and all that kind of stuff. And like, hey, here's like, it's like Claude Code, but for Perplexity, Open Claw, but now it's Perplexity. Like it's wild that somebody has to buy Perplexity at some point because I don't know how they're going to ultimately like make their money outside of like just investors because I don't know I don't understand their business model. I don't get it. Like, but I will say that I'll tell you what, Jaden, like make fun of me if you want to, but like I still use Perplexity for just search. I just think it's the best one.
Yep. Something I want to say that is kind of cool that they do that I was also noticing recently. They have this thing called Model Council, and I'm totally going to steal this feature and add it to AI Box. But basically, you ask it a question and it pitches it to Gemini, Grok, OpenAI, and Anthropic, and then it has all of them deliberate, and then it comes up with like a consolidated answer on it. And I think that's really cool for
Yeah,
people
smart.
that, for a
Smart.
variety of different reasons, maybe they're like, oh, I don't trust Grok, I hate it, but it's got it's plugged into like X, and so it gets all of like kind of the X data that no one else has. Or maybe someone's like, oh, I don't like Google because maybe it's biased, or you're like, oh, I don't like OpenAI because their DoD deal, or maybe you're like, I don't like Anthropic because of the DoD deal. Well, whatever. People have all sorts of opinions on these AI models, and some of them are good, and some of them have special data sources. I really find this a very compelling feature of Perplexity, where it pitches the question to all of them, and you don't really have to worry so much about getting a bias in a model or anything like that when it's going to consolidate and get the answer from a bunch of different models, and you can look at them all. So shout out to Perplexity and their Model Council feature. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into the podcast today. This has been a ton of fun for us to go over all the tools. Guys, if you have not already, Conor has made a very special request. He recently was supposed to plan to go on an entire trip to Nepal, and due to everything in Iran, his whole trip got canceled. Conor was heartbroken. He was telling me about it. I mean, honestly, actually, yeah, I'm drumming it up for fun,
True.
but
No,
like
I really was. Yeah, we really
he
were. It was supposed
genuinely
to be
was actually very
Me and Finn go every
heartbroken.
year, and we teach AI,
Yeah.
and we weren't able to go because we couldn't play it through guitar. It was actually literally gutting.
It was actually horrible. So our condolences to Connor and the fam. They're going to have amazing opportunities to go back soon, I hope. But in the meantime, if you would do one thing to help cheer Connor up, that is to leave a rating and review on the podcast. It would make his heart happy.
Yes. Yes.
It'll bring a smile back to his face that I haven't seen in a while since that fateful missed flight. But guys, if you haven't left a review already, we'd love for you to do one. Thanks so much for tuning to the podcast, and we'll catch you guys all in the next episode.